Hello, Mary, and a big warm welcome to you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So Mary, you're the founder of Empowered Lotus, and the aim there is to train professionals, speak to inpatient teams, and collaborate with services. And that is in regards to eating disorders and in the body image space as well. What I actually loved and picked up on in some of our conversations is that you're doing that in a person-centered way. So that's not based as let's do this and that's it. There's a very personal aspect in that as well. You're also here to share your personal experience of having an eating disorder, and some of the things that come up for you were 10 years of being in and out of hospital with that as well. And at the end, we're very lucky, and I'm very excited to hear a poem that you've made about your experience as well. So, again, thank you for coming. And I'd just like to open up the space for you to say a little bit about the work that you're doing with Empowered Lotus.
Yeah, okay. You've said a lot, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I struggled with an eating disorder for 19 years. It started 2001. And for a very long time I kept it a secret. And then I ended up in hospitals, in and out in medical wards, ICU and psychiatric wards, and then I ended up having to go to the mainland to get more treatment there. And I never thought recovery was possible. It was so long. It was such a long journey. I didn't know life without it.
Mm,
And I never ever saw anyone who had a journey like mine recover. So then when I actually finally recovered and life became so much lighter and fresher, and I had a different perspective on life. Um, and for me, I started questioning what was I going to
mm,
do? I spent 10 years in hospitals. What can I give to the world? And what kept coming back was creating something like Empowered Lotus. And I ended up calling it Empowered Lotus because I love the imagery of a lotus coming up from the mud and still it grows and thrives. And yeah, now I use my lived experience to help educate the system on an illness that is so misunderstood.
mhm,
And the heart behind it is just I am the face of an illness that many people have, more people have it than you know. And there's just not many people that really truly understand it, not that many people that treat it like a mental illness.
mm,
Um, and what I do is share my story, help educate, but also help people understand what really worked for me and
mhm,
what didn't and what people could do a little bit better. But I also, through that, I help people that are struggling. I talk to family members. I do talks. Last week, I was doing a talk in Belfast and was actually talking about mental health and technology, which was very interesting. But yeah, like through Empowered Lotus, I can do so much, but it's still very early days and I'm just excited to see where it grows. Yeah.
mm. And yeah, that what was coming to my mind when you're talking there is how important that personal experience is. And I can hear that for you, that perhaps that wasn't there for you, that personal experience. And the thing that was going around my mind is there's no us without us. And you offer that person that's been there and that understands what does work and what doesn't.
Yeah, for a long time, I had many therapists and many psychiatrists, and I remember the frustration of going, you just don't get it.
Mm, yeah.
Just don't get it. And I just think what could have happened if I had me, someone that just
Mm.
was using their lived experience. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
And what is it you needed? Is there something you needed at the time that perhaps wasn't there? And how is that now? Are the services improving? There's you out there. Is there more?
Mm. I think people like me, experts by experience, lived experience workers, whatever you want to call people like me,
Mm,
it's starting to be welcomed. In Northern Ireland, it's still a little bit lower down in the pecking line. But what I try and explain to people is I am gold dust. It's not me in a personal way, but people like me,
yeah.
people that have lived experience. We're gold dust. We're the ones that you read about in books. You
Mm,
go to courses and learn about us. Well, why don't you take away that bit? Well, you still use that bit. They're great. But being able to be in a room or something like this and to be able to ask the tough questions, to be able to hear a point of view that usually they don't hear. I always say the ability to empathize is a really powerful thing. And by me just sharing my story, people then have a face and a story behind something that they're treating. But yeah, yeah. I hope it improves. I think that the system still has a long way to go.
yeah. There's something in there about being misunderstood. And
Misunderstood.
you
Yeah.
were about you were getting into what are eating it disorders. It's not about I just want to look a certain way. There's more to it.
So much more. So much more to eating disorders than weight and how someone looks. For me, my eating disorder was a huge trauma response to a lot of trauma that happened in my early years. Um,
Mm.
Eating disorders are just like any other mental illness, or even I relate to people with addictions.
Yeah, I was yeah, that was coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people talk about addictions and their addiction to alcohol, drugs, I'm like, I get that.
Addiction not
If
the
the
problem.
coping, yeah,
Mm.
but that's not the problem. And that's all people saw for me. For me, everyone just saw my body and how I looked.
Yeah.
And that's not what it was about.
That was
I
your
was
coping.
broke.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a broken young girl, lost in a world, and that was the only way that I knew how to cope, to numb, to not feel these emotions that felt too overwhelming to feel.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Mm. And it's really, really important to get that message out there because it if it's not the problem, same with addiction, then the trauma is what we need to look at, and we need to see past all the other things, almost
Mhm.
pull that curtain away so that we can see underneath what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. But what happens in a lot of eating disorder treatment, and I understand why in ways, but especially in anorexia, they can't you can't go through the trauma when you're in such a low weight.
Right.
But then by the time you get to that weight and you're going through your trauma, then you lose the weight and it's a cycle. And
Mm,
for a long time, no one wanted to touch my trauma and they were just treating the symptoms
mm,
instead of treating me as a full picture and who I was. And I lost my identity completely.
yeah.
I was just an eating disorder. And
Mhm.
I really, really lost myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and I think I mentioned at the start that person-centered approach is massive, and that is exactly why, because actually there's always a person, and we may have the experience, but another person's experience may be different to that, and
Yeah.
something can
Everyone's
improve
story is
that
different.
person. Yeah, yeah. And I know we spoke a little bit beforehand, and there was a worry about services almost. And I've got one question for that, and that's if the services are not there, what happens? What happens when they're not there?
Um, like My opinion on services is complex.
Okay.
But I really think that they could improve. But what happened with me, um, I was in a system that just didn't know how to treat me. And it was doing the same things over and over again instead
Mm,
of going, oh, should we try something different?
mm,
And eventually they put me on palliative care. Well, they were removing all treatment, and palliative care was the next step. And now looking back, that makes me really angry.
yeah.
But this is the system that we are in. We're all in the under the NHS, under doctors, under psychiatrists, whatever care we need. But it's for me, I think it's great to have these services, but what I would love to see is for them to look outside the box.
Yeah.
Maybe if something doesn't work, be open to looking a different direction,
Mm,
and learning through people like with lived experience, because as I said earlier, it is gold dust. And even bringing in people like me to do supported eating or just to normalize eating, and that you to show that hope to people that are struggling. That's why I go into units, because for them to be able to visualize someone that has had the same illness as them for 19 years and recovered, that's beautiful in itself, and that gives a lot of hope.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I could see that proudness, the proudness on your face when you talk about what you're doing now, which is really lovely to see, as well. And you spoke a little bit about some of your friends that perhaps didn't get the care that they
Yeah.
needed and deserved.
Yeah, so I've lost over 10 friends to an eating disorder. Most of them were under the age of 30.
Mm,
And three were from my local area. And I remember being at one of my friends that she was a close friend. I was at her funeral, and I remember feeling just this ache so deep. It really broke me, but a fire so fierce and an anger so fierce that it lit something inside of me, because I remember feeling like this shouldn't be happening.
yeah.
My friend was around 30, and there was other things that could have happened. The services shouldn't have given up.
Mhm.
Maybe just looking in a different direction. And her and I at the same time were getting put on that end, removing all treatment, end of care kind of thing. And yeah, she didn't make it, and there's so many people not making it.
Mm,
And it's just really sad because it shouldn't be seen as a terminal illness. It shouldn't.
yeah. Like I can really hear the part of you in that that's sad, and that
Yeah.
that holds that sadness. And also that part of you that kind of said, uh-uh,
Mm-mm.
fuck this.
Yeah.
A little bit. And
100%. Yeah.
mm,
And that was the moment it was at her funeral, feeling that fire
mm,
was the moment I kind of came up with Empowered Lotus and was like, this can't keep happening,
mm,
and nothing's changing over there. So can I do a small part? Can I do something? And that's what kind of lit that fire in me. Yeah.
well, I wouldn't call it a small part of what you're doing. Um, it's really, really important. And I think the story about your friend shows just how important what you're doing is.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work. I'm really looking forward to hearing your poem today. Are you ready to share that with us?
Yeah.
Trapped in the grip of a storm, a war I could never outrun. An eating disorder whispers its lies. Perfection, control, rules, games I could never win, folding small to survive. Psychiatric wards, a revolving door. Anorexia, my new name. I walked their corridors hollow, scared, alone. A cruel inner voice taunting, numbing to not hear. My father's voice echoing in the dusk. He was taken too soon. No time to ask him how to grieve, how to grow, how to hold myself without breaking. His absence carved a hole in my chest, but around that space, I now plant seeds. Resilience, grace, colour, life, and love. Recovery was never a straight line. It was a dance, 2 steps back, 3 forward, a stumble, a cry, a jump, a leap, a rising. And now, I stand on steadier ground, with open arms and an open heart, ready to hold space for others, no longer folding small. I carry my scars like candles, lighting the way for those still in the dark. Because this story is not just mine. It is a promise that even in the aftermath of loss and the depth of illness, hope lives. And I am still rising, just like the lotus from the mud. My heart is bright, my love is pure, and my future, well, it's mine to unfold.
Thank you for watching. Seriously, it means the world to me and our guests that you took the time to watch. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it really does help the channel to grow. And equally, you won't miss what's coming next if you do that. The aim of this channel and what me and the guests are trying to do is we're trying to inspire, and we're also trying to give other people a sense of belonging. And at the very least, we're trying to make other people feel seen and heard. And that's our hope with this channel. If this video spoke to you anyway, then please do check out our other videos just here. We will catch you in the next episode.